Welcome, everybody. I'm Bonnie from Academic Technology, and I am here with Karen, Chris, and Jill Hadaway to talk about ConvertaFile and how we can walk our talk with our course documents. Karen?
Hi, I'm Karen Christ. I'm the University Director of Student Services, and part of that is the Office of Disability Support Services. And we're going to cover a brief agenda today and hopefully provide you with some interesting new tools that you can find useful for making your course materials accessible. Jill, would you like to briefly introduce yourself?
Sure. I'm based in Seattle and I support both the library and the Disability Support Services offices.
Thanks for saying where you are. I'm in Ohio.
And I'm in New Hampshire.
Okay. Wow. Right? We're all over the place. So first of all, I just wanted to thank you all for showing up. One of the reasons this is an important topic for us to cover, we have a new tool called ConvertaFile, but one may be wondering, like, what's the big deal? Why do we need this tool? The Americans with Disabilities Act, which is the world that Jill and I and our colleagues live in when we're providing reasonable accommodations to our students with disabilities, has guidance for us in terms of websites and learning management systems and course materials for students with a variety of disabilities. Some students are visually impaired or have memory or executive function challenges, and accessible course materials are important because there are a variety of tools that these students will use to be able to access their materials that you and I might not need to, or you and I might need to. I don't know, because some of these disabilities are not visible. So one of the things is we can never really assume who's going to be in our classroom. You will know that you have a student with disabilities in your course because you will be provided with a notification of a letter of reasonable accommodation. However, you may have other students in your classes who have disabilities who may not have requested accommodations, or you may have students who do not have a disability at all. However, converting documents, providing accessible course materials benefits all of your students. And just one of the examples is if you're having materials in your course that are 13th generation photocopies, maybe skewed and slanted, blurry, you're putting a cognitive load on all of your students, which can distract them from the learning that you're trying to achieve by providing your course materials and your weekly lecture notes and any Zooms that you're conducting. This can create fatigue, frustration, and really can limit the engagement that your students have in the class. So I just wanted to cover that this is not strictly about creating accessible documents for people with disabilities, because that is something that we will make sure our students who are reasonably accommodated have. For instance, if we have a student that reads using Braille, we take care of that. You don't need to. But there is an obligation for all faculty to ensure that their course sites are accessible. And academic technology is really fantastic at doing that. With and for us, but because faculty can upload materials to their site. Hi, Jane, I don't know if you're on mute, but
I got that.
Okay. Now I lost my train of thought. Just a second, I'll get it back.
Okay, let me jump in and just say this great example is like a curb cuts. Curb cuts, those cutouts made in sidewalks, were initially made to help people who use wheelchairs access public city streets. But in fact, those curb cuts are just as impactful for parents with strollers and people carrying suitcases and people on crutches who find it difficult to step up, and people delivering goods to retail services with those giant trolley carts.
Right.
Just because something was initially useful or most useful and is required for students with disabilities doesn't mean it doesn't also provide great benefit to your students who may not have or who may not have disclosed their disability. So people who commute could really benefit from, if you have an accessible text document, they can convert it to MP3 and listen to it on their way home during their commute. or they can get an accessible text version and they can blow up the text so it's easier to read when they're reading in the dark because, you know, their kids are in the other room or, you know, sleeping, or they're sharing a house with whoever they're living with now during COVID. So these accommodations can help every student, and students with disabilities as well.
That's an excellent point that you brought up, Bonnie, especially the MP3 conversions, because so many people who are commuting can get a lot of reading done. And there is research to suggest that listening is reading. It is a form of comprehending the content. So thanks for bringing that up. So one of the things that we'd like to demonstrate for you today is how ConvertaFile is going to, or is linked in Sakai courses. And we've set up thank you, Bonnie, for setting up a demo site here in Sakai so we can tell you and show you how this can work. So we've uploaded a variety of resources into the Sakai site. And we would like to show you how that converts. Although now that I've said that, Bonnie, I'm thinking maybe what I'd like to do first is share my screen and show them the difference between the different documents that we already have. I'm kind of going off script here, I apologize. Because if you open it up in the Sakai course, it's not going to render. So I'm going to share my screen and share my desktop so you can see everything I want to show you. So I'm going to open up a chapter of a book, and hopefully, please tell me if you can see that or not.
If you could make it bigger, that would be helpful.
Yes, I will. I've got two screens and I never know sometimes how I'm sharing. So this is a document that was just photocopied either at home or you know, in one of the machines on Antioch's campus, and it's not accessible. And one of the things I'd like to demonstrate is when you click on a PDF and the entire page turns blue, you know that it is an image. It is not a readable PDF, even at the basic level for a screen reading tool. Although there are some on-the-fly OCRs, optical character readers, this is really not considered an accessible document in any way. Just for comparison, come on, we have another one which has been converted, which we'll demonstrate to you, but I want to show you, and I meant to have that open already, that when you go to look at the text and you click on it, you can actually highlight a word or a sentence or a paragraph. Now you know this is a PDF that a reading tool, a speech to text, I mean a text to speech reader is going to be able to read. So, okay, back to you, Bonnie. I'm going to quit sharing. I just wanted to demonstrate that difference between an image document and a PDF that way.
Fabulous. Thanks, Karen. And if anybody has questions, feel free to raise your hand and interrupt. We'd rather answer those questions when they come up for you, or you can throw them in the chat if you want them answered later. So in Sakai, we have a new tool in your sidebar called ConvertaFile. It started last term for people, and it was called ConvertaFile, and it brought you to the ConvertaFile website, which is available to all people with an antioch.edu account, where you can upload a document. So you just choose the file from your desktop. Often we'll want to fix a PDF or something like that. You upload it, and then you tell it what you want it to be output as. If you want to convert this file to, say, an MP3 audio file, you just click audio file. You say what language you want, what speed you want, and you put in your address. And in 10 minutes to an hour-ish, depending on how long the file is, you'll get the converted file back in your email. So I'll just hit submit. So that was the way anybody can use ConvertaFile for files on their desktop, files you download from Google Drive, files you download from your email. But there's now a more convenient version in Sakai, which allows you to click Convert a File and it brings you to a ConvertaFile page right in Sakai, and it knows who you are because you're already logged into Sakai. So it gives you access to all the files that are in this course. So everybody's page will be different depending on what course they're in, but this course has folders called week 1, week 2, week 5, week 6, all the way down. They have all of these PDFs. There might be JPEGs, there might be Word docs in your page, but this means students can come in here, and if you have this schizoaffective NAMI article that you want them to read, and they need to convert it to an MP3, or they need to convert it from a PDF to a Word doc so that they can, you know, adjust it so it's the easiest to read for them. All these files are just listed here. They pick it. You tell them what you want them to do with it. Often I use the accessibility conversion to convert it from a PDF to a Word doc. And then you just say, where do you want it delivered? And campus email. I don't even have to type in my email because Sakai knows, and Census Access, which is ConvertaFile's company, knows that this goes directly to bpowers@antioch.edu. And then it tells you that you've been successful, and you can go back to your Sakai course and you could do another one if you wanted. So in your Sakai course, you will only have this ConvertaFile one that converts in Sakai, but everybody has access via many websites, knowing the URL, to the ConvertaFile web tool as well. So that Suzanne, for example, if you don't have your Sakai site built yet and you don't have access to it, you might want to check and convert some of the reading files you have to give to your students to make sure they're accessible. You can do that on your desktop now. You don't have to wait for your Sakai site to be ready. And what I can do is just copy that URL and put it in the chat for everybody. So I went through that a little bit quickly. Does anybody have any questions about the ConvertaFile? It's called a Sakai integration tool and the ConvertaFile website.
Just to clarify, Bonnie, this is Patty. You know, I build courses and I'm not a student, so I just tried that. It automatically took me to the web resource. Is it because of that? Because I'm not a student that I wouldn't see exactly what you just did?
It's not there probably because you aren't in a spring semester or spring quarter site.
Okay.
Because for past sites, and maybe in some of our core source courses that we've built, they have just the old link to the website. Now we have the LTI working. And so
Okay.
all courses starting, I believe it's spring quarter forward, will have that direct link to the Sakai LTI. So it just depends which course you clicked it in.
Great, thank you.
And we can update older courses now. If you are in a winter course right now and you want your ConvertaFile to be working, we can go turn on the LTI version so your students can use it. Jin Suk, I see you have a question.
Yes, I think like you just answered, because when I went to my winter, like last fall course, I didn't find this function. And also, you know, in our department, we do have field experience Sakai site, which is like a lot of handbooks and some resources. And then it will be great to have that conversion kind of function there as well. So how do I make that request?
Well, that's actually pretty easy. You can do it yourself, but AT is happy to help you.
Okay.
You would go into your site info tool.
Yes.
You'd go into manage tools. And then down at the very bottom, you'll have in your external tools, you'll now have ConvertaFile and sneak preview. You'll have Panopto too. So you can add it yourself, but if you just email AT the list of courses you want it added to, or if you want to do it together the first few times, we can set up an appointment to help you do that.
Awesome. Great. Thank you.
So, yeah, so you'd check it, you'd hit continue and finish.
Mm-hmm.
I'm going to cancel since it's already here.
Mhm.
So I quickly demonstrated a conversion in the Sakai LTI, and I quickly demonstrated a conversion on the web. Do we want to move on to that converting the document, Karen, or the next part of our agenda?
Yes.
All right. So Karen briefly showed you this photocopy, which is the original document. And this ConvertaFile was the one that she clicked with the words in it. And also this is an ebook. So for go ahead, Karen, take it away.
I just wanted to talk a little bit about the ebook. So one of the things that is really helpful to know is where you're starting, being really intentional about where you're starting with your course materials. You may have a photocopy in your file cabinet because this is like one of your beloved articles and you want to use it. But it's also sometimes really useful to make either an appointment with a librarian or go to our library site and see if that already exists in digital format through the library. And then you can think about linking the resources that way, or having either having the link, and Bonnie did a recent session on that, which I think was probably recorded. We could touch on that a little bit, or get that downloaded and connected there. So those copies are in general going to be cleaner. Now, I will say I have run across articles that are digitally sent to me through WeDeliver, which are image PDFs and needed to be converted. And I ran them through Census Access for my own personal use and research. But sometimes rethinking your materials through the library as a resource can solve a lot of these problems for you. Not all of them, but that's just something I would like to bring forward. There is, really Census Access, and I don't know if we're going to get to that yet in terms of the ones that aren't super accessible, Bonnie, if I'm interrupting the flow here.
No, but, go for it.
So one of the things that you want to, since you're sharing your screen already, will you double click on poems about poetry? So this was an example of something that was uploaded to a course that was very difficult. The original photocopy was challenging. And when we tried to run it through Census Access ConvertaFile, it just aired out and said that we can't do anything with this. There's just nothing we can do with this. So this is a situation where if you have the original book or you can obtain it, if you had it off your bookshelf, is to be really conscientious about how you're photocopying, not 2 pages per sheet, not having it slanted and pages cut off. You've got to be very particular about where your margins are, because if a student does go to use that or try to convert it, they will be unable to, you will be unable to. So it really does matter the quality of the item itself. It can do a lot, but it can't do everything. So that's just something to keep in mind. This would be something that we would want to go back to the faculty to say, let's see if this is available in digital format in a library. And if not, if we have to make a new photocopy, let us give you some tips on how to photocopy that in a way that will get you a better scanned result.
Absolutely. Yeah, in fact, what we got back when we submitted this was an answer almost immediately from Census Access, which said, this one right here, this error. Error, or the accessibility conversion of poems about poetry packet. We sent this away to them using the tool, and it just came back and says, due to the following reasons, Census Access could not process your request. The pages were, some were horizontal, some were vertical. There were a lot of black artifacts on the page. The font was italic in a lot of places, and it was just really hard to use, and it just sort of gave up. So this is a sort of, Karen's favorite term, which I love, is garbage in, garbage out. Mm-hmm. So this, no matter what tool you use, almost, you need to start with the best version of the reading that you have, and try to convert that to an even better version, rather than thinking that, oh, it can fix every problem we have, like, a photocopy of a photocopy of a photocopy.
Right.
And the library, like Karen said, is a great place to start. If I had looked at that, for example, the grief and loss book, grief and loss across the lifespan, and I just popped open our library website or worked with a librarian to help us. I just want to go to the catalog page. Grief and loss across the lifespan. Oh, did I spell it? I didn't do a great spelling job there, did I?
Oh, someone. Did Patty find it? Look in the chat.
Oh, okay.
You
I
haven't.
found it.
Thank you, Patty.
You're welcome.
There you go. So this is the ebook. We come in here, we click on the ebook. It does require us to log in. That's sort of the point of our library. It subscribes to all sorts of resources for us if we log in. You can read it online. You'll be able to download portions. Your students will be able to do the same. So we could start with this link, and or we could ask the library, or we could figure out how to get a decent PDF right from here. And in fact, that's what Jill did in this final example of the ebook. So we have the starter version is the photocopy. This is the converted version that Karen showed you. And then the ebook version that she downloaded from the library. And look at how nice that is to read. You can see I can highlight any section. If I had the free Adobe voice to speech turned on from Read and Write Gold, it would read that section aloud for me. And if I try to convert this to an MP3, it'll come out 99% better than trying to convert that original. Someone just saves that MP4, they turn it on their phone when they get in their car, or when they have their headphones in and their kids are running around the room, or they're cooking dinner or vacuuming. That's when I have my podcasts on. That's when I have my audio files on. It gives me more time to focus on the content if I can both have a printed copy and an audio copy to listen to.
And we have some students for whom the font is very important in terms of their screen reading. And so if you have a clean copy of a PDF, even so it's technically accessible, that's great. You could have a student want to use ConvertaFile and save that to a Word document, and then they would have the ability to adjust the font that they're using and go from Times New Roman to Arial or to Home or something without serifs, which is a little bit easier for some people to read on screen. Or they can get rid of the italics and have those be non-italicized words, which is also helpful.
Yeah, so as you can see, I'm logged in as Karen because those of us in academic technology are administrators in Sakai, and the LTI fails for us. But that means in a few minutes, Karen will get an email from Census Access with the converted file attached. And all she has to do is open it up and change the fonts. And you can forward that to AT if you want me to show that, if we need to do that later.
Well, I will tell you that given much of what was happening when we were prepping for this meeting, both the NAMI, schizoaffective NAMI article and the recent chapter you just sent, both aired out. So there's some back end stuff happening that we don't have any control over right at this moment.
So we've got plenty of times for question and answer, for us to look at PDFs that are in your courses, or if anybody from AT or DSS wants to add anything that we may not have said already.
Well, there are some accessibility tips. I mean, I don't know if we want to go over those, but also be really helpful if someone wanted to go into a course and take a look at stuff. That could be a great way to kind of make it real world.
I will attach all of these documents in the chat so that you guys can download them for yourselves and keep them. We don't have to have questions if you don't have them. I can stop sharing so you all can go practice on your own, and I can pause the recording for a minute to see if you want to try one and see if you're getting any results, or in case it fails right now.
Can I just point out a quick library tip?
Yeah.
Patty, I did the same search as you, and that was actually the 3rd edition of Grief and Loss Across the Lifespan.
Okay.
The faculty was using the 2nd edition. So in the catalog record, you can go to other editions and get the correct one. I mean, you'd find it out as soon as you looked in the book and the chapters didn't align.
All right, so down here at the bottom, other editions. Do you know where I find that? 14 editions and
Yeah,
formats.
there you go. And you can narrow it to Antioch Libraries owning it.
Okay,
you
this
can
one looks like
narrow
this
it
is the
down to
second.
ebook. Yeah.
Yep. And Jill, if you want to share, you're welcome to. I can stop my share. We can actually see each other.
And I also uploaded to the chat the accessibility checklist for course materials, which goes beyond some other things. It talks about using headers and Word documents and how to convert PDFs and other things that you may find helpful as you're preparing course materials for your courses.
And for you, Suzanne, perhaps we have a self-paced faculty orientation too, where it walks you through. We've got a page on accessibility. We've got a page on copyright. We've got several pages on learning Sakai and learning Zoom. And you can just skip the ones you already know and look at the ones that, that are useful to you.
Most everything can be addressed, but sometimes things can't be addressed in the time frame that the student has. So you may have a student who really needs this, and if they don't get it in time, they've lost time, and then they're late with their assignment, and then they get a downgrade, and then that just is such a demotivator. So it's really our main message here is that AT and DSS, the instructional designers, all of us are here to support you as faculty to make sure that your materials are as accessible as possible. And some of the reasons why we see it as being very important, even outside of the realm of disability support.
Yeah, so if you want any assistance, just email us at at@antioch.edu and one of us will help you. And if you specifically have a letter of documentation from a student with a disability, it would be great to communicate with your local disability support services person. And do you guys have a general mailbox, DSS?
No, you would want to contact your DSS coordinator that's assigned to your campus, and that's on antioch.edu, or it's also on the letter of accommodation itself. If the student has an accommodation of alternative course formats, what we're reading from is your required and recommended book list, but that won't help us know whether you have inaccessible materials in your weekly lectures. So yes, please do reach out to us if you get a letter of and someone's got alternative course format and you've got stuff in your course, reach out to your coordinator and we'll work with you to help get that organized. And then you can take accessible documents that we are able to work with you on and update your master so that you won't have to revisit that every semester that you or a quarter that you teach it.